Hello everyone, and welcome back to SIG Blender. In the last tutorial we made this nice little umbrella, our first model. Before we move on to our next project of the day, which will be a tree, I first want to touch up on this umbrella a bit because I noticed there were some things that I missed that I want to fix. So first of all, I like to normally keep my objects smaller with this little plane as a frame of reference, and I noticed that we modeled this umbrella to be very, very big. So what we're gonna do is, I already did actually, but it used to be mirrored. So apply that there. I'm not gonna do it since I already did it right before showing this video, but apply the mirror. So now instead of, when we hit tab, instead of it just being a corner, it's now all four. The whole object has faces all around. And now that it's not mirrored, we can properly scale it in edit mode and bring it down so it fits right into the plane here. Also, it's still labeled as just a cylinder in the view, object view. So we're just gonna double click on that name to rename it. Name it something more handy like umbrella. Sweet. So now that we have it named umbrella, and now that it's a nice proper size, I don't think we really need to look at it anymore, so we can hide that away. And so, like I said before, the thing we're going to be modeling today is going to be a tree. My general idea for this render we're working towards right now is there'll be a person sitting underneath a tree, holding an umbrella while it's raining. It's the general thought process of my rainy day render. So with the umbrella, we didn't really need a object frame of reference, but I think for a tree it'll be really useful. So we're going to go and download an image real quick. I want to be able to see the branches of the tree, so I think I'm just going to Google like dead tree. Alright. We want something that's a good like 90-degree either like right side view or front side view. So I think this image works pretty well. You can see everything that's going on basically, and it's not too crazy like the other ones. Unless we want one of these maybe. Nah, we'll go with the original one. It'll probably be easier for you guys to find. Maybe it'll move around when it Googles. Save image as, save it wherever you'll remember to see it. Call it a tree.jpg or PNG, whatever it is. So, to get it in Blender, we're going to use this little plus sign that'll bring us this little hidden menu. And we want a background image. We're going to add an image. And then it says open over here, so we'll just find the picture right at the desktop. Named it tree conveniently. So now if we hit Control-Shift-Q, or no, Control-Alt-Q, sorry, you can see it's projecting this image onto the top, front, and right ortho. We only really want it on the right ortho, so we are going to change that by going over to axis, and we're going to make it visible from the right, so now it's only visible on this screen over here. And I also want to move it just so it's lined up properly. I'll also make it, yeah, looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect, just we want it generally in that center so that when we're modeling we can look at it. So the way I want to model this tree is to be a little different from the way we modeled the previous object. What we're going to do, because the tree is so fractal-like, and this is a very common thing for people to do, I see a lot of tutorials do this, especially for making trees beginner style, is that we take a point and we skin it so that there's basically a bunch of generated faces around a point, and then we just draw the fractal and points, and the faces handle everything else. So it might sound a little complicated, but it'll get pretty simple. We're going to start with a cube. And like I said before, we really only want one point. So we're going to deselect everything, select all these points but the one we didn't see over here. We're going to delete them all. So now we deleted 5 points that we selected, and there's this one little point over here. And we're going to use the world's most complicated hotkey, Shift Control Alt C, move that point to the origin, and now it's time for some magic. So we're going to be using 2 modifiers to turn this point into some pretty faces. First is going to be skin, and that is what actually puts faces around the point. And then we're going to do a subsurf. We always do a subsurf, and that makes those faces into something a little more pretty. All right, so we're going to do Control Alt Q again to look at this screen. So what we can do with this point is we can extrude it, and that'll make, as you can see here, a nice line. Then also when we have a point selected, if you hit Control A, that increases the size of the skin. So those are the 2 main tools we'll be using to model this tree. And we're mainly looking at, we're going to start off with this picture in mind, but you don't have to always go exactly off your, you know, what is it called? Basis picture, I guess. You can divulge sometimes, especially at the end when you're, seeing what would actually look better for your model. You don't have to go exactly with what you're doing. But for now, it's a good start. So I'm just going to try and make this look as much like it does in the background picture. If you need to see the points that we're using, because they're kind of hard to see when you have solid thing on, Z is wireframe like I said before, and then you can much more easily see the points that we're working with, although not really because this is a black picture, but it's close. Anyway, I'm just going to start modeling away. If you guys find a different picture that you want to use, feel free. I want everyone's trees to be a little unique, so there's no need to make your tree the same as another person's tree. Everyone's trees can be unique. Another important thing to note is that after I finish modeling this, I'm going to go to this front ortho view and top ortho view to make it so the tree isn't going to be completely 2D. I want it to be an actual tree instead of just a 2D picture of a tree, which is what this picture is that we're basing it off of, which is an issue. The best way to use these kinds of background pictures is to get all 3, top, front, and right, because then you can actually model the full 3D object just based off your pictures, which is why I love taking pictures of things that I model, because then I can get those perfect pictures that I wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Maybe I'll branch off there. Yeah. So this is a pretty simple process of modeling. Not a lot of, hotkeys you gotta remember or anything like that. And like I said before, it's mainly good skinning a point and extruding these. It's mainly good when you're trying to do something fractalish, which is basically a tree. It's one of the small use cases of it. But there's other ways. I'm sure you can see other ways in which this form of modeling would be useful. Alright. But this definitely saves us a lot of time. Because if we were to try and do this by just extruding like a cylinder like we did with the umbrella, you can see how this would take us much more time than if we're doing what we're doing right now. And so that's always good. You always want to try and save time when you're working on things like these, because they are very time consuming. Then I'm going to do 2 more branches. As you can see, I'm not filling out every single little twig. I'm just kind of using them as a reference. Alright. Final branch. There we go. I think I'm going to improv a little bit more splits and ends. I like to have each point split into 2 points towards the end, because it makes it nice and tree-like. Alright. So, this is my tree. You may like it, but this is mine. I'm going to now start kind of rotating these points, moving them around so it's not just, you know, a flat 2D tree. So I think I'm going to box select, which is B, select all of these points, rotate them around the Z a little bit, and move them on the X, so that way they're facing that way. Let's see. I think this branch, I will rotate the Z this way, and then move the X that way. That way it's facing that side, and then I'll move these points even more. Have them go more extreme to the Z, negative wise, and then these guys will go more extreme to the positive Z. They'll kind of come back this way. There we go. Let's see. We can have these points come this way. Again, these are just simple transformations that we learned at the very beginning. Ways to move around points. Oh no. So sometimes the algorithm kind of messes up and these little holes form, or sometimes the object doesn't look too good. If that's the case, you kind of just have to play around with it until it gets fixed, really, like that. Alright, so this is looking pretty good and tree-like, if I do say so myself. And one last thing, we're just going to rename this cube to be a tree. Don't want to get confused as to which cubes are what. Anyway, that is the way I like to model trees, with a skin and subsurf. Moving around points that are really a series of faces to make them look all fractally. Just gonna fix that one tiny bit. Maybe give one more face to it. You can also, I did the modeling in this ortho. After a while, you can just start extracting them from here and playing around like that, and that will also help to give more 3D-ness to your tree. But I think this tree is fine as it is. So, tree down, umbrella also down, and we're on our way to having a full scene. I hope to see you all in the next tutorial, and